in Revelations, people, especially Muslims, will point out, see, Jesus has a God. I thought you did an excellent job explaining that in the past. So you want to
Revelation? It's in Revelation 3, verse 12, but it's also in 2 and verse 5, where we're told that Jesus is God as the Father. So Revelation 3:2, he talks about my God. Revelation 3:12, he refers to his God 4 times. 4 times he says my God. And in verse 5, we're told who that God is. It's the Father. How can the Lord Jesus Christ, who's now glorified in heaven, he's in his glorified physical body of flesh, because he will forever be the God-man, God in flesh. If he's truly God and he's reigning in glory, he's King of kings and Lord of lords, how then can he refer to the Father as his God? Very simple. If Jesus became flesh and he became part of a creation, because his physical body, his human nature, was taken from the holy, sanctified, consecrated womb of the Blessed Virgin by the power of the Holy Spirit, so that he could truly be human and be one of us and identify with us. So that physical body, human nature, makes him a part of creation. From that moment on, the Father becomes his God. But then, due to the resurrection, he continues to exist as a man, albeit a glorified man, in a glorified physical body made immortal and deathless, but still a man nonetheless, and will never stop being a man. The Father will never stop being his God. Let me repeat, and I'm going to give you the verses. If Jesus Christ became flesh, and he did, flesh taken from the consecrated, sanctified womb of the Virgin, he's flesh of her flesh, by the power of the Holy Spirit, thereby becoming human, truly human by nature, and being part of the human race, and being part of creation. From that moment on, by becoming flesh, becoming human, the Father becomes his God. And if he remains in the flesh, as a glorified man with a glorified physical body, and will never stop being flesh, never stop being human, never stop being a man, then the Father will never stop being his God. Sorry, I'm buffering here. Guys, sorry, I don't know why I'm buffering. We're doing our best. So I'll buffer here and there, but that's just StreamYard. I hope you're listening. I'll repeat myself. If Jesus continues in the flesh and will never stop being in the flesh and will never stop being a man, the Father will never stop being his God. Now, why do I say that? Well, let me give you the biblical proof. Jeremiah 32:27 and John 1:14. Okay, Jeremiah 32:27. Note what it says. Behold, I am Jehovah the Lord, Yahweh, the God of all flesh. The God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? Now, John 1:14. John 1:14. And the Word became flesh. The Word, who's not the Father, not the Holy Spirit, but the Son. He became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So if Jehovah is the God of all flesh, and the Word of Jehovah, who happens to be God, becomes flesh to be the Father's servant, then why would it surprise you the Father then becomes his God when the Word becomes flesh? The Word and sarx, in flesh, then has a God over him. The Word before flesh had no God over him. He only had a God over him after he became flesh. Now, if that Word who became flesh remains flesh, because he remains human, then the Father will forever remain his God. And in Revelation 22:16, this is what we're told. Revelation 22:16, this is what we're told. Who is Jesus now in glory? Now he's speaking to John in glory, and he says in Revelation 22:16, I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things in the churches. I am, notice present tense, not I used to be. I am right now in glory as I speak to you, John, 60 years after my resurrection. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. Jesus says, in heaven, I am still the offspring of David. I am still the descendant of David. Well, Jesus could not be the offspring of David, the descendant of David from David's line, if he wasn't still human in heaven. And as a man, he's ethnically a Jew from the tribe of Judah and from the line of David. So that's the answer. Jesus is still in the flesh. He's still a man, although he's a glorified man with a glorified physical body of flesh. And because he'll remain a man, the Father remains his God. So the Word became flesh, and the Father, who is Jehovah, the God of all flesh, becomes Jesus' God after Jesus becomes flesh. Do I need to see more?
No, that's cool. Akshad Shah asked also a valid question. Does that mean also the Holy Spirit is Jesus' God?
Absolutely not. Because Jesus did not become flesh to be the Spirit's servant. He became flesh to be the Father's servant, and the Holy Spirit worked alongside of Jesus, worked with Jesus to perfectly accomplish the Father's will. So he didn't become flesh to serve the Spirit and be the Spirit's servant. He became flesh to serve the Father and be the Father's servant, accomplishing the Father's will, a will he perfectly fulfilled in union with the Holy Spirit. Now, guys, you have a blasphemer here, a son of the devil named Tal Schuster, who is a spiritual dog like Muhammad, insulting Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Well, don't be a man in the comment section. Skype me, because I will unmercifully muzzle you and humiliate you for blaspheming Jesus, who's Muhammad's God and destroyer, because your prophet Muhammad is in hell where he belongs. Glory to Jesus. And in case you're a rabbinic Jew, where your rabbis are burning in hell with Muhammad under the feet of Jesus. Don't be brave in the comment section. Skype me so I can send you crying to your fake God who can do nothing to save you. Guys, don't think you're going to get away with insulting Jesus, blaspheming Jesus, as long as there's breath in my body. Right? Anyway. Now, brother, I don't know if that answered the question, but let me prove what I just said. The Holy Spirit did not become Jesus as God, because Jesus did not become the servant of the Holy Spirit when he became flesh. He became the Father's servant to accomplish the Father's will perfectly, something he did in union with the Spirit. So the Spirit worked in union with Christ, as he always does, accompanying Christ and perfectly accomplishing the Father's will, because Jesus became the Father's servant on earth to fulfill the Father's will. So where am I getting this from? Matthew 12, 17 to 18. Matthew 12, 17, 18, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, behold, my servant, speaking of Jesus, he's my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, the one I love, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my Spirit on him, and he will declare justice to the Gentiles. So notice, God says, I will put my Spirit on Jesus, because Jesus is my servant, whom I love. He's my beloved, who delights my soul. So whose servant did Jesus become? The Father's. Whose Spirit accompanied Jesus to accomplish the Father's will? The Father's Spirit, the Holy Spirit. I don't know if that answered the question.
It does. And Jesus himself in John 16 says that the Spirit will glorify him. The Holy Spirit will glorify Jesus.
Yeah, he will send the Spirit from the Father to continue the work of Jesus that Jesus did on the earth, but now the Spirit would do it in and through the apostles.